In this video, we're going to be talking about the Linux command line and the structure of how Linux is built. Before we get started, just want to point out to make sure your caps lock isn't on when you're typing in Linux, unless you want it to be. Case sensitivity matters. So let's go over some terms. Using text input to perform tasks is commonly called a command line interface. And most Linux administration and configuration is driven by either a command line interface or a text interface. Individual pieces of software that perform commands and provide what we interact with are known as shells. So what is a shell? We have many shells with features and benefits, and a lot of them primarily differ from how commands are constructed and what the syntax is like. But some commands are born shell, the born again shell, the corn shell, the C shell, the 10xc shell, and we probably know PowerShell as well, something I didn't include there. And now there's built-in commands. A variety of commands are implemented into each shell. These are known as built-in commands and will always be recognized if you are running the same shell. If you are attempting to run an external commands, you need to provide a full path name or use a reference in the shell you are using. If this is your first time logging into the shell in Linux, then you will see something that looks like this before you type in a command. If this is your first time, we haven't created a specific user yet, and your username will just be root. Here, in this example, it's showing our current working user, the host name, the present working directory, and the type of user. Now the type of user you see is a $sign, and that can be changed to a £sign, which would be super user. And that's just a quick breakdown of what all that text means. This is used to represent information that may vary due to circumstance. And you can see what these variables are by typing in the command env. We can see values of each command being used by typing in echo and then putting the $sign, which is essentially saying variable, and the variable name. So you could do echo $sign mail, which will pull the mail part, or echo $sign pwd for the current directory you're within, so on and so forth. Environmental variables are commonly used when scripting, shortening longer command lines, or running the same command from multiple user accounts. If, for example, you want a file with a name identical to the user to be made when a user logs into the system, you can run a script when anyone logs in and use the $sign log name to make it create these files. Next, we have aliases. An alias allows you to define a new name for a command, or to define a new name that represents a command with specific switches. We construct this with the alias command as listed below. So you would type an alias, whatever name you would want, and then the equals would be the command that you want to run. And in the working directory, the following commands modify the directory your shell is interacting with. For all intents and purposes, your working directory indicates the path your shell is currently within. pwd displays the location of your working directory. It looks like it would say password, but it actually just displays the location of your working directory. CD changes where your working directory is. You can move around within the working directory, and now we can retrieve information as well by using ls to list all attributes of directory files that are not hidden, or ls_la, which is just a switch. Anytime you see a tac and a couple letters or a number, that's kind of just like a switch or a... And by switch I mean it's an option. A few basic commands. You could type in clear to remove previous lines from the shell window, and then we could use logout to return to the login screen. We can do Control C to stop running the current command. We could do Control D to return to the login screen. Now let's talk about the directory tree of what Linux looks like. / represents the top level directory in the directory tree of a Unix-like operating system. This directory contains all other directories, subdirectories, and files in the system. So underneath / we have the bin. Bin contains the executable programs that must be available in order to maintain minimal functionality such as booting or system repair. The boot directory contains everything required for the boot process except for the boot files that are non-essential during boot time. The boot directory stores data used by the kernel before it begins executing user mode programs. The dev directory contains special device files. These files are used by programs to interact with physical devices. The etc directory contains all system-related configuration files that are used to control the operating system. Home is a directory that is used to contain user login directories. Each of these login directories that contains personal files, directories, and programs. And inside home, we have a lot more subdirectories for each user. Each normal user will have their own home directory that is specifically for storing their information. When a user logs into the machine, this will also be a default directory where their terminal will start. The lib directory is used to contain kernel modules and any shared code that may be used from the C programming library. The sbin directory is used for storing administrative tools that should be unavailable to non-administrative users. Root is a directory that acts as the login directory for the root user on your Unix-like programming system. The opt directory is reserved for software and add-on packages that are not part of the default installation of software. The proc directory contains information about your system and the processes it is performing. This directory is used to dynamically access data. The mnt directory and its subdirectories are used as temporary mount points for accessing storage devices. Mounting is the process of attaching an additional file system to a location that can be accessed by the operating system. And within the mnt directory, there's some common subdirectories found there, including floppy and CD-ROM. The temp directory is a temporary area that is used to hold files and directories for a short period of time. The temp directory is cleared whenever the system is booted up. User is used to store all user programs, their configuration and documentation that may be included with them. var is the directory that contains data about the local system that is written or changes based on normal operation. This most commonly includes log files. srv is a directory that is used to contain data and information that will be served by your systems to clients. And now let's talk about non-standard directories. We have a lost and found directory, we have media, miscellaneous, we have SE Linux. Metacharacters are used by a shell to perform substitution within commands. They can simply allow you to perform many commands in a single line. And it all depends on what shell you're using again. You can pause the video at your will to go through these. The simple command I've listed below will list all the files within the boot and root directories. And with these options, we can filter what we want to list. Let's talk about piping. What is piping? Piping commands allows you to take the input of one command and provide it directly and input it into another. This allows a great amount of power in individual lines. One example of this is using the word count command, which is wc. Let's take the output of ls and direct it into word count to list the amount of entries. This will allow us to get the number of files or subdirectories in a location. So down here, the pipe is the middle line that's separating the two commands. So ls/etc is one command on its own, whereas wc tac-l is also just one command on its own. So we're taking the input that ls etc would put out by itself, and instead of inputting that, we're going to input that command over into the wcl, and then the command will be run after that. It's like a formula. We talked about filters already a little bit, but there's the more filter, which shows more information than normal. There's the NL for numbered list, it's the sort for alphabetize, and we could try each of the above by running ls pipe filter. So a lot of day-to-day tasks as a Linux admin is troubleshooting and looking for errors. We can use the grep tool for searching our event logs for errors too. This is a very useful command. So essentially what grep means is grep is search. That's what it's pretty much what it means. I know it goes deeper than that, but let's keep it as simple as that for now. So grep error and then /var/log/messages. So that's the directory path that it's looking in. So now it's going to give you everything that says error in that messages. Now we can talk about man pages. Now man stands for manual, and these pages exist to help you learn more about commands. You can find these online anywhere, but we will discuss installing them ourselves. You gotta make sure you can connect. You can install the yum package, identify the command you need help with. You can type in man and whatever command. So now that we've covered the bare basics of the simplest commands in Linux and how Linux is structured, let's talk about this more advanced. Let's do some labs in the future, and I hope I see you guys on those videos. Thanks for watching.